Part 18. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 171. In normal times, let alone 8 martial emperors, even 2 powerful martial emperors rarely fight against each other. And at this moment, Qin Xian's figure appeared somewhere in the void, a pair of deep eyes staring straight at this scene. He didn't make any movement, his face was calm, and he just watched quietly. It's not that Qin Xian just ignored it, but the 8 of them were not close to the territory of Profound Heaven Sect, and could only be considered on the edge, so Qin Xian couldn't unleash his invincible strength. So since we can't fight, we have to take advantage of this situation to observe the battle of 8 martial emperors. As for others, they didn't go up to fight because they didn't dare. Their strength was too low to participate in this level of battle. It was great to observe. What's more, this is still within the boundaries of 8 martial emperors fighting. The fight between the strong men of martial emperor was so huge that it broke mountains and rocks. Even with all their strength, they couldn't control themselves, let alone go up to help. If you are not careful, you will be shaken to pieces by this breath, and you will die with your eyes open. Boom! There was a roar that resounded throughout the world. The void is shattered, and the turbulent flow of breath continues to appear. Hua hua hua! I saw a terrifying fist shadow appearing in front of everyone with the potential to destroy the world. The shadow of the fist shattered the mountains and rivers, the ground shook, and the rolling dark clouds changed the color of the situation. Everyone in void was frightened by this move. This move is really terrifying. Suddenly, an old man's figure flashed before everyone's eyes. Let everyone's eyes light up. Look quickly. I found that the old man's figure was like a falling meteorite, hitting a mountain with a height of 10,000 feet on the ground. The mountain peak was directly smashed into pieces, and half of the original 10,000-foot mountain peak was lost in an instant. Debris is rolling in and dust and smoke are rising everywhere. Phew! The old man's desolate figure was revealed in the middle of the mountain, with bright red blood stains everywhere. The old man was lying in a pool of blood. The white robe he was wearing was stained red by the billowing blood, which made people feel slightly scary. Cough. Ahem. The old man looked painful and spit out a mouthful of blood. His pale eyes looked high in the sky. He saw a domineering man with an arrogant expression and his arms crossed from high in the sky, looking down at him. A pair of dark eyes looks arrogantly at everything. Is that all you have? The man said with a disdainful smile. When the old man heard this, his face was filled with anger, and he wanted to struggle to get up and fight again, but the bone-crushing injury had completely affected his body shape and movements. Seeing this scene, the man laughed loudly. He is really a loser. As a middle-level martial emperor, he didn't even show his momentum, but he was knocked to the ground by my punch. You're a piece of trash. I really don't know how dare you dare to challenge me, Profound Heaven Sect. The man's words pierced the old man's heart, making him look embarrassed. He wanted to refute, but he couldn't say a single word. When everyone hiding in the void nearby saw this scene, they all exclaimed, but some also laughed. This must be Old Man Ming. He was punched to the ground by this man. Isn't this a bit shocking? One person said with an unbelievable expression. Yeah, this Profound Heaven Sect is a bit too strong. But according to my observation, this person only has the strength of the peak of the first-level martial emperor. Why can he cross the level and knock Old Man Ming to the ground? There was confusion and questions from someone beside him. How did everyone know? They shook their heads. Seeing this scene, Guao in the void frowned slightly. The strength of this Profound Heaven Sect is beyond my expectation. At the same time, another collision sound came, and everyone quickly looked up. I saw Quang Gaun holding a long sword, charging at the people in front of him like an undefeated god of war with an unstoppable force. Boom! 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 The breath of law keeps rolling. Bang bang bang! The middle-aged man in front of him looked extremely painful. He kept raising his hands to resist, feeling helpless in his heart. It was so uncomfortable that he had no power to resist at all. He couldn't bear it after just a few moves from the man. Boom. 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 Let those people hidden in the void see it, and they can't help but feel a little confused and puzzled. The momentum was so terrifying just now, why did they escape now? But the battle was far from over. I saw the same scenes happening in several other places, and the momentum was very terrifying. And the battle between the two has ended. The man in white robe kept kowtowing, and no one present could express how happy he was. Boom. The other sect elders and peak masters were naturally cheering and cheering. This person is one of the powerful martial emperors in Tianqian. The middle-aged man has been defeated and is not far from death. His master's revenge has been avenged. Because he doesn't want to lose face in front of everyone. Boom. Knife after knife struck him, making him unable to hold on at all. His resistance at this time was just his willpower to persevere. The middle-aged man finally couldn't resist and was knocked to the ground. As embarrassing as your figure is. Two lightning-like figures appeared in front of everyone, and their figures kept flashing. The disciples in the Profound Heaven sect laughed and were ecstatic when they saw this. The cheers even drowned out the roar of the fight. A mouthful of blood spat out from the corner of his mouth, the emperor weapon fell, and he knelt on one knee due to exhaustion. But there is something strange about this majestic scene. I saw two Daoist figures standing high in the sky, fighting non-stop. With one move, the two of them could instantly shatter the mountains of 10,000 feet, and with all their strength, they could shake and shatter the nearby void. In front of her, an old man with gray hair and a white robe had a look of panic on his face and ran away in a panic. The white-robed man in the crowd knelt on the ground and smiled with tears on his cheeks. Ha ha ha, Master, have you seen it? He has been defeated, and Lord Quangyun has avenged you. Ah! It didn't look majestic at first. I thought he could slowly consume the man's spiritual power like this, but it turned out that the man's spiritual power seemed to be replenished with something, inexhaustible and inexhaustible. But it's not as good as the trick Quangyun used just now. The momentum is huge, like a catastrophe between heaven and earth. They couldn't help the middle-aged man. They each had difficult opponents, and they didn't dare to separate their minds, let alone help. The man swung out the knife again, the knife's intention flew everywhere, and the terrifying sound shook the world. But now he can't keep it. There is no reason to be unhappy if your own family beats someone else. When other people saw this scene, they felt a little anxious, but there was nothing they could do. Boom. A roar that resounded throughout the world shocked everyone and they quickly looked around. I saw only one person wearing a purple robe with gold patterns, and a charming-looking woman fluttering in the air. Say it. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 172. Everyone was extremely puzzled. There were sounds of doubt and conversation. This person should be the Lianjian sect master. Why is he being chased by a low-level martial emperor woman like this? Is this too dramatic? One person said with an incredulous look. A person beside him shook his head and said, I don't know. Maybe this woman is as powerful as the man just now. Finished. Looking at the beautiful figure chasing after him, the old man looked helpless. I glanced at my arm and saw a series of wounds on it, as if they had been scratched by something sharp. And there was a hideous blood mark on his chest. It seems bleak, but it is much better than the middle-aged man just now. But the old man was still a little dissatisfied and snorted coldly, damn it, I have lived for tens of thousands of years. When have I ever been so angry? I was chased and beaten like this by a woman. After speaking, the old man sighed slightly. Also, why is this woman able to hold me down and beat me even though she is not stronger than me? Is it because of her high talent, The old man frowned and asked in confusion. Swish. Several harsh sounds came. The old man looked shocked. He saw several more purple thorn blades attacking him from behind. Seeing this scene, the old man didn't have time to think too much, so he hurriedly resisted, and then used secret techniques to quickly escape from here. We came to a valley with dangerous terrain, and there was a crystal clear river in the middle of the valley. Seeing this, the old man's tense face showed a smile, as if there was some kind of treasure here. A few breaths later, the old man came to both sides of the river. His cloudy eyes scanned the surroundings, as if he was looking for something. I remember there seems to be an abandoned magic circle here, the old man muttered to himself. Then he looked towards the nearby cliff, until a wet cave appeared in front of him. The old man's eyes lit up and he stepped forward. As soon as I entered, there was a cool breeze blowing against my face. Whew! But the old man didn't care, and without any hesitation when looking at the dark cave, he walked straight in. After walking for almost half a quarter of an hour, we came to an abandoned gravel. Scattered gravel was revealed in front of his eyes, and his eyes flashed with a golden light. I saw a golden magic pattern flickering in the middle of the gravel, which looked like a magic circle. When the old man saw this scene, he looked happy. Sure enough, I remembered correctly, there really is an abandoned magic circle here. With this magic circle, I still don't believe I can't deal with that banshee, the old man said with a smile. Immediately, he took out a few formation stones from the ring, waved his hands, and the formation stones fell on the 5 corners of the magic circle. In an instant, the golden lines that had no light a moment ago began to shine, and the dark cave also emitted streaks of golden light. I saw the golden lines on the magic circle begin to shine slowly, and the next moment, all the nearby gravel began to merge, gradually turning into triangular boulders one after another. After a few breaths, the magic circle lit up with a dazzling light. This also means it's done. But the old man was not happy. He frowned and cursed secretly, damn it, this magic circle is scattered. You must find the other 3 formation patterns, otherwise the magic circle will not be activated at all. The old man sighed slightly and began to use his spiritual consciousness to explore the surroundings. In less than half a stick of incense, magic circles were found one after another. At the same time, the woman also came to the high altitude of this valley. A pair of charming faces revealed a hint of doubt. It makes people feel very cute when they look at it. Wai Wei said softly, where did this old guy go? And why did he come here if he had nothing to do? The woman frowned slightly. Do you still want me to go in? The woman looked at the wet cave nearby and murmured. Then he shook his head again, no, this old guy must have some evil plan. Maybe he has some magic circle hidden here. At this point, the woman seemed to have thought of something, her face was shaken, and she retreated sharply, but it was already too late. The magic circle is also activated at this time. Buzz. A slight shaking sound was heard, and the valley began to slowly collapse. Several sky-reaching water pillars emerged from the river, and the water pillars firmly surrounded a 10-mile radius. A huge water ripple shield was formed. The water dragon roared, swinging its tail and charging towards her. The water column began to change slowly, and the next moment dozens of ferocious water dragons appeared in front of her eyes. Oops! The fun is yet to come. The next move will definitely surprise you, the old man smiled gloomily. Seeing this, the woman moved her slender hands, and the aura of law surrounded the middle to form a shield that surrounded her whole body. The old man hiding in the dark was not too panicked, his expression was calm and natural, and he didn't seem to be worried about the danger of the chain. The woman felt slightly panicked. Dozens of water dragons hit the shield, causing a roar. The woman is trapped in it. But the peak martial emperor can do it. Boom! Several water columns appeared again in the water flow, swoosh. Ding, host, This is the Xian Shui formation. There is no way to break your virginity if you are trapped by this formation. You cannot get rid of it unless you destroy the person who controls the formation. The woman frowned, but she didn't panic. Because the water flow that had just been smashed began to slowly gather into a water dragon again. The water dragon started roaring again. The aura of law is pouring into her body like a long golden river. Although she was blocked, the woman's expression did not relax at all. But instead of rushing over, it transformed into one after another water dragon whirlwind. The water dragon whirlwind rotated slowly, and the horror in it made people shudder. Ho ho ho. Of course, the host can also exchange sect values for formation breaking beads. Boom. 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 All the nearby spiritual energy began to converge into her body. All the tornadoes were instantly tied up with chains, and there was no phenomenon of chains penetrating the water flow. A terrifying space crack opened behind him. Before she could continue to think about it, she saw that the river, which had been extremely calm just now, suddenly started to roll rapidly and the waves were turbulent. Wow! I saw chains emerging one after another from it. These were not ordinary space chains, but chains contaminated with the aura of the imperial law. Once bound by this, it would be as if it was bound by an immortal rope and could not move. Close your eyes. The next moment, the woman opened her eyes, and a cold light appeared. In the void? He frowned slightly and asked the system, how does the system break this magic circle? I saw the aura on the woman's body began to vibrate. Qin Xian's figure appeared here, looking at the woman's current situation with a pair of deep eyes. Water splashes everywhere. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 173. Qin Xian nodded and frowned slightly. As for the next sentence, he directly blocked it and pretended that he didn't hear it. His dark eyes looked at the woman's current situation, and he murmured, that old guy's strength should be around the early stage of the middle-level martial emperor, and my strength is only at the early stage of the low-level martial emperor. If I want to defeat him, I must at least have martial emperor's low-level peak strength is enough. This gave Qin Xian a bit of a headache. His current strength was only at the low level of the martial emperor. It was not that difficult to deal with the middle-level martial emperor. Having said this, Qin Xian had a slight headache and started to think deeply while stroking his chin. After a few breaths, Qin Xian's eyes lit up. He seemed to have thought of something and patted his head. I almost forgot, I also have an azure dragon. Then he asked the system, as the azure dragon is a divine beast, in addition to improving my qualifications, it should be able to increase my strength, right? Ding, the current azure dragon can indeed do it. Qin Xian nodded, then he was relieved. It shouldn't be difficult to defeat an intermediate martial emperor with the strength blessed by azure dragon. What's more, it was a sneak attack, and he immediately looked to his left. I can see a touch of the azure dragon pattern printed on my left hand. The whole body is exuding green light. Buzz. A small black hole emerged from Qin Xian's chest, and a small head with two horns emerged from it. Looking around curiously with his big eyes, he swam out until he saw Qin Xian, and he immediately ran over to him happily. Seeing this, Qin Xian smiled and touched it, and a spiritual stone appeared in his hand. Azure Dragon's eyes lit up when he saw this scene, and he immediately swallowed it. There were sounds of shattering. Then Azure Dragon burped. Seeing Azure Dragon's satisfied look, Qin Xian smiled and said softly, "Little guy, I need you to do me a favor." Hearing this, Azure Dragon looked puzzled. "As long as it's done, I'll give you something good to eat later." Seeing this, Azure Dragon waved its dragon tail and immediately nodded in agreement. Then it turned into a stream of light and flew into Qin Xian's eyebrows. The next moment, Qin Xian's eyes flashed with golden light, and countless laws of aura flowed through them. The aura of his whole body instantly rose from the low level of martial emperor to the middle level. Boom! The spiritual energy shook the surroundings, and there was a huge roar. The roar resounded like thunder throughout the heaven and earth. I saw openings in the void nearby, and the billowing turbulence of space was revealed before my eyes. Seeing this, Qin Xian smiled and nodded with satisfaction. Is this the strength of the middle-level martial emperor? It is indeed not comparable to the low-level martial emperor. Immediately he used the authority given to him by the system and began to feel the nearby life forms. After a few breaths, an old figure appeared in the cave in the valley below. Qin Xian opened his eyes, revealing a trace of murderous intent, and said coldly, "I haven't killed anyone for a long time, so today I will test the strength of the intermediate martial emperor on you." As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Xian's figure turned into a trace of bubbles and disappeared. Appeared in the cave. The figure of the old man also appeared in front of Qin Xian. At this moment, the old man had his hands behind his back, looking at the woman outside with a pair of eyes, gloating about her misfortune, and laughing. Little did he know, Qin Xian had already arrived behind him. Looking at the old man's smiling expression, Qin Xian didn't say anything, but his eyes showed a hint of chill. A trace of law aura appeared in his hand, and then turned into a sharp sword. Qin Xian waved his hand, and the sharp sword went straight to the old man's eyebrows like lightning. The old man's smile suddenly stopped, as if he felt something. He turned his head. Found a sharp sword pierced between his eyebrows. The next moment, severe pain in the internal organs appeared. Ah! The old man yelled and wanted to resist, but how could Qin Xian give him a chance? His breath shook, and a terrifying fist hit him. Boom! With a flash of golden light, a blood hole appeared in the old man's chest, and a large amount of blood poured out of it like a waterfall. Then Qin Xian appeared in front of him, grabbed his neck with one hand and squeezed hard. Click! The sound of broken bones was heard, and immediately the old man fell down and landed on the ground with a look of death. Boom! In the barrier. The woman in purple robe looked slightly pale, as if she had suffered some great loss. The black and elegant hair is spread around the waist, making people look a little lonely and a little infatuated. He raised his head slightly and looked at the menacing water dragon and the countless water dragon whirlwind women in front of him and smiled helplessly. She gasped from time to time. She had very little spiritual energy left and could not perform many moves. On the other hand, this formation shows no signs of weakening at all. Instead, it gets stronger with each fight. Am I going to die here? The woman sighed. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a roar from all around. I saw several water dragons surrounding the woman's body, as if they wanted to strangle her here. Seeing this scene, the woman bit her red lips lightly and surrounded her whole body with her remaining spiritual power and laws. At this time, the spiritual power has completely dissipated. Not a trace available. In fact, it stands to reason that it is difficult to use up the spiritual power of a strong martial emperor. In addition, with the power of law, his spiritual power will be greatly replenished as long as he takes a short rest, and there will be no such thing. Kind of running out of situations. But it is a pity that this formation can only overcome this point, not to mention that there are still people in control, so every time you break an offensive, the formation will become a little heavier. From then on, the offensive will become more and more, until unable to resist. The woman's situation is like this now, there is no chance to replenish it, and the pill has no effect. That's why the current situation of running out of oil and lamps has been created. Ho ho ho! I saw several water dragons looking up to the sky and roaring. The roars went straight into the woman's mind and made her heart tremble slightly. Then he rushed towards her. The water dragon whirlwind also turned into a wave of waves and swept towards her. There are enemies on all sides, there is no chance to hide. Wow! Seeing this, the woman closed her eyes slightly and began to wait for her fate. But several breaths passed without any roaring sound. The woman opened her eyes again and found that there was nothing around her. The fierce water dragon and stormy waves were gone. It was as if it had just been a dream. But now he doesn't have any spiritual power, so it also means that this is not a dream at all. When the woman saw this scene, her expression was slightly startled, and she saw that the water-patterned shield that originally surrounded her began to gradually disappear. Her bright eyes were slightly confused, and she didn't understand what was going on. Until an indifferent voice came to her mind. The person who cast the spell has been dealt with. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. You just need to go back and help other elders. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 174. After hearing this, the woman's expression immediately became respectful, and she knew the reason for the matter and who the speaker was. He cupped his hands towards a certain place, and then his body turned into a stream of light and flew towards the profound heaven sect. After the woman left, Qin Xian's figure emerged. A pair of deep eyes looking into the distance. That is the place where the most intense battles take place. It is also a place where the laws are broken. Horrifying sounds come from time to time, making people shudder and tremble in their hearts. It seems as if it is not a sect, but a forbidden place filled with corpses. I saw a man holding a long knife emerging in mid-air, with several figures standing behind him, and two men in white robes standing below him, but they looked a little embarrassed. The man is naturally Kuang Yun, and behind him are the profound heaven sect and other martial emperor experts. Seeing this scene, Qin Xian did not show any happy expression. Instead, he had a trace of worry. He frowned slightly and murmured, with their strength, they can win, but the only thing that worries me is that they are hidden in the void. That person. Qin Xian's eyes looked somewhere in the void. That's exactly what I'm talking about. When Qin Xian first appeared, he had already felt the pride hidden in the void. He found that he didn't make any movement, he just watched quietly, and he put down his worried expression. But now, Qin Xian has a bad feeling. Say it. Profound heaven sect outside the mountain gate. I saw a mess within a radius of 10 miles, and everything was devastated. Dark clouds are rolling high in the sky, and thunder is constantly coming together. The earth has turned into a bottomless hole. Dust, smoke, and gravel are everywhere. There are countless broken arm remains. These are either innocent monsters, mortals who were accidentally shocked to death by the martial emperor's aura, or independent cultivators. The originally rolling and towering mountain peaks are no longer visible, and only some cracked peaks are left. But these were either chopped into pieces, broken in half, or turned into pieces of gravel remaining on the ground. Nowhere is intact. Only the profound heaven sect survived intact in the aura of the battle between the 8 powerful martial emperors. This is also due to the top formation established by Qin Xian. This formation is the Tianqian formation, which was set up by the system with the help of him. As long as Qin Xian's strength becomes stronger, the formation will also improve accordingly, regardless of any realm. Otherwise, the current profound heaven sect may be turned into ruins, and it may even be described as horrific. Damn it! Why are they so strong? Even though they are at a low level, they can still defeat us at higher levels? Is it because they have high talents? If I had known this, I shouldn't have vowed to wade into this muddy water. A man with a dignified appearance and a white robe looked at the scene and sighed. His expression was extremely sad. Now he is filled with regrets and remorse. They thought they could easily complete the task assigned to them by Li Ziun. However, let alone completing the task, even surviving is now a problem. But now, Only one of the 5 martial emperors has the strength to continue fighting. The others have either broken arms or suffered irreversible injuries, and have no strength at all. But he seems to be becoming like the others. Guo secretly screamed when he saw this situation. No, they must be rescued, otherwise Xiun will blame me. As soon as he finished speaking, Guo tore open the void in front of his eyes with both hands, and his figure instantly appeared in front of the man in white robes. When the man in white robes saw this, he looked slightly stunned and a little confused. After careful inspection, he found that he was actually a powerful man at the peak of the martial emperor, and he was also a member of the Tiangong. His expression immediately became happy again. All the previous worries and regrets are gone. But Guo had no time to care about him now, so he waved his hand. Boom! A roar came. I saw an overwhelming and turbulent sense of power pressing directly towards Quan Gyun and the others. This power is like an angry dragon. Ah! Puff! Quan Gyun and the others were instantly crushed to the ground. They knelt on one knee in mid-air and spat out a mouthful of blood. They looked at Guo with pale faces. Kuang Yun gritted his teeth and asked in a low voice, "Who are you?" Hearing this, Guo looked at Kuang Yun with a pair of indifferent eyes, and his dark eyes shot out a chill. The chill made Kuang Yun tremble all over, as if he was in an ice cellar. Who is this emperor? Everyone in the world knows it. You don't need to ask, you just need to answer my words. Domineering and arrogant words reached everyone's ears. And the voice has a hint of irresistibility. It seems that you will suffer great pain after rejecting it. But how could Quan Gyun be afraid of him? He held a long knife and puffed out his chest, looked directly at Guo and shouted, "Humph, you are really arrogant. But it is a little too arrogant, right? You, a peak martial emperor, have come to participate in our low level. Don't you think it's a bit embarrassing to fight against the martial emperor?" A sky-reaching sword intent appeared around Quan Gyun, and the chill it exuded went straight into the hearts of others. But this kind of momentum looks so weak in Guo's eyes. With a single wave, the sword intent disappeared like a mouse meeting a cat. Ha ha ha, Guo laughed, as if he was mocking, with a hint of disdain in his expression. I saw him folding his arms around his chest, looking down at the wild clouds, and saying with a proud expression, "You are also a genius, but it's a pity that your brain is not very good. Do you really think you can compete with a low-level mid-level? Ha ha. The mid-level martial emperor is just an ant in the eyes of this emperor. If your strength is at a high level, I may have to look at you and take you seriously." Then, he shook his head with a trace of pity and said, "But it's a pity that you are just a low-level martial emperor. If you say this in front of me, I will not kill you, which is already magnanimous." After finishing his words, before Kuang Yun could continue to speak, Guo directly lifted Kuang Yun up with one hand. The breath from his whole body rushed directly into Kuang Yun's mind, making him breathless and his face turned red. "Have you tasted it?" Guo's deep voice resounded in people's ears. "Ants are just ants, but you still want to try to resist the power of this emperor? You are very courageous, but your strength cannot keep up with your courage." Kuang Yun didn't speak, and kept struggling with his legs and feet. But the more he struggled, the tighter Guo's hands squeezed, as if he wanted to squeeze Kuang Yun to death. But whenever Kuang Yun was about to be out of breath, Guo let go of his hand again. This was not because he wanted to spare Kuang Yun, but because Guo was afraid of someone, otherwise Kuang Yun would not have said such a thing. He is already dead. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 175. Seeing this scene, several martial emperor experts from the profound heaven sect clenched their fists, all of them were furious and gnashing their teeth. But they did not rush forward to save Kuang Yun, but stood there and thought calmly. It was not that they did not want to save, but that the gap in strength between the two was really too big. There is no difference between them going up and dying, so they might as well think carefully about what better way to do it. Kuang Yun himself knows this, and in his heart he really doesn't want Profound Heaven Sect and others to come to save him because of this. After a few breaths of time passed like this, Guao seemed to have had enough fun and slowly let Kuang Yun down. But there is always ridicule and ridicule on his face. I have been very merciful by not killing you. Kuang Yun didn't speak and coughed a few times, with a hint of wheezing in his mouth. After swallowing a pill, he stood up, a long knife appeared in his hand, and his tall figure did not give in at all. His eyes firmly said, I probably already know who you are. There are only a few people in the Profound Heaven continent who have reached the peak of martial arts. Judging from your clothes and figure, it is no surprise that you should be one of the 4 great emperors of Tiangong. Be proud of yourself. Guao didn't speak. And as a member of Tiangong, why do you want to participate in the battle between our sects? Is it possible that the power of Profound Heaven continent is decided by you alone in Tiangong? As soon as the words fell, there was a burst of noise in the void. Discussions and questions continued. Guao frowned slightly and his face gradually turned cold. This was what he really didn't want to hear. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Guao's expression and movements, as if they were waiting for his next words. The Black Demon Sect and other top forces also looked over, their expressions a little unhappy and their eyes narrowed slightly. If it is true as Kuang Yun said, the palace's control is indeed a bit too lenient. If today's things are done, then when they fight with other sects in the future, it will be like today. Then what will happen? What to do? And now they have to wait for what Guao says next, otherwise everyone will have to start to unite or discuss countermeasures. No one wants their sect and family to disappear from the world. Of course, Guao doesn't want to see the situation, and naturally Tiangong and others don't want to see it either. Then a clear voice came to Guao's mind. Lord Guao, the palace master asked his subordinates to give you a message. Hearing this, Guao's expression lifted and he lowered his eyes to listen. Palace master, I hope you will think carefully about what you say next, otherwise there will be consequences. Guao narrowed his eyes and nodded. Looking at Kuang Yun, his face remained unchanged and he said indifferently, you are quite smart and know how to provoke everyone's interests. Kuang Yun didn't speak, his expression was always alert. But you are really annoying. The words fell. A terrifying aura quietly emerged around him, as if he wanted to kill Kuang Yun directly here. Seeing this situation, Kuang Yun's face trembled, and a trace of sweat appeared in his palms, which made him slightly flustered. At the same time, the surrounding temperature also dropped sharply at this moment, and the cold and terrifying atmosphere made people go straight into the ice cellar. The sound of the shattering space of arrays also appeared in Kuang Yun's ears. Profound Heaven Sect and others began to be vigilant, and one magic circle after another appeared in their hands. Guao's expression was indifferent, and his eyes looked arrogantly to the heaven and earth, like a high-ranking god. Bursts of thunder also began to resound throughout the heaven and earth. Boom! And this seems to represent Guao's anger. Void and other forces frowned to the extreme and could not relax at all. If Guao dared to take action, then they would have to prepare for the worst. Kuang Yun was so pressed by this breath that he couldn't breathe, but he still stood firm, gritted his teeth, and refused to take a step back. There was a stalemate like this for nearly half a quarter of an hour, and the originally terrifying and cold breath disappeared in an instant. I saw Guao's eyes staring at Kuang Yun, and he said, you have good perseverance, no wonder you can practice martial arts with sword intent to the Emperor realm. After hearing this, Kuang Yun's expression did not change. Nothing changed because of Guao's praise. Then, Guao looked at the people behind him and the seriously injured people and said, these people are my descendants, and I am also their master, so according to the relationship between master and disciple, I must save them, and this Xingyi only represents my personal approach and does not represent the forces behind me, so I hope you will not make this matter into something that my Tiangong wants to challenge the major forces. This is very misleading. Besides, my Tiangong is not that powerful. Strength. Guo's tone this time was not arrogant or sarcastic, but had a hint of humility and respect. Even the emperor who I just called myself has been changed to me. This shows that Guo has regressed. In tens of thousands of years, Guo has not regressed like this for a long time. Today's setback is nothing but worry. Otherwise, he would have wanted to go on a killing spree. Especially this crazy cloud. When the major forces heard this, their brows finally relaxed. They were quite satisfied with this answer, but the vigilance in their hearts did not weaken at all, but instead increased a lot. It's a pity that Kuang Gaiyun is not satisfied with this answer. The other elders of the Profound Heaven sect are not satisfied either, but they don't know how to speak, for fear that they will offend Guo and torture and play with Kuang Yun again. Seeing this scene, Guo frowned slightly. He had already taken a step back. If he took another step back, wouldn't it mean that Guo was afraid of Profound Heaven sect? What's more, Guo's own pride does not allow him to do this. He is a face-conscious person. Both of them paused without making any sound. Until the figure of a purple-robed woman appeared in front of everyone, slightly breaking the tranquility in the field. Seeing the scene in the field, the woman frowned slightly. Then another figure emerged. It's Qin Xian. He stood high in the sky with his hands behind his back, looking straight at Guo with a pair of deep eyes with bursts of coldness. The aura of the rolling law flowed around him, like the galaxy. When Profound Heaven sect and others saw this scene, their eyes were filled with joy, and their originally worried faces began to laugh, just like some young disciples who were overjoyed when they saw this. They had just entered the sect not long ago, and they had never seen the figure of the sect master of Profound Heaven sect. I just heard other disciples in the sect say how powerful and mysterious the sect leader is. This made them even more curious, eager to know who the master of Profound Heaven sect was. What does it look like? Looking at Qin Xian high in the sky, Guo's expression was calm, but there was already a turmoil in his heart. The main reason is that Qin Xian is too young. He clearly exudes the power of a strong martial emperor, but he does not make people feel any fear or threat. He does not have the aura of vicissitudes of a strong man who has been tens of thousands of years old. It smells like a young man in his 20s. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 176. Especially Qin Xian reached the martial emperor realm world at the age of 20. In the eyes of Guo, Profound Heaven continent has never seen a martial emperor in his 20s in millions of years, but he saw it today. You must know that the youngest martial emperor on the Profound Heaven continent is only in his 70s. It would be strange not to be shocked. He took a breath, suppressed the shock in his heart, looked at Qin Xian and asked, "Who are you? Could it be that these people were just waiting for you to come over?" Qin Xian said nothing, looking down at Guo with a faint smile on his lips. Seeing this, Guo looked a little displeased, and his eyes looked at each other unwillingly. Just by looking at each other, the void was shattered like this. Boom. Guo didn't take action immediately, but it wasn't because he was afraid. Although Qin Xian's talent is unparalleled in ancient and modern times, it is only top-notch talent. Although his talent is strong, his strength is very low. Only martial emperor mid-level. With this kind of strength, he couldn't feel any worry at all. In Guo's eyes, anyone who has not reached the high-level martial emperor is just an ant and garbage. Doesn't matter if your talent is strong or not. This emperor can take you down with just one move. This is what Guo is thinking in his heart. Thinking of this, Guo looked indifferent, glanced at Qin Xian and said in a deep voice, "You are very young and very talented, but your strength is too weak. But what makes me curious is, what is your status in this sect?" Qin Xian glanced at him, his expression remained unchanged, and he said lightly, "I am the sect master of Profound Heaven Sect, Qin Xian." Hearing this, Guo's pupils shrank slightly. He thought Qin Xian was just a top disciple or elder of Profound Heaven Sect, but he didn't expect that he turned out to be the sect master of Profound Heaven Sect. The direct reason why Guo didn't take action against Kuang-yun and others just now is that he was afraid of the master of Profound Heaven Sect. After all, the mystery of the master of Profound Heaven Sect is also spread outside. He has heard it sometimes, so he is a little curious about this person. Guo was a little confused. The peak master was obviously so powerful, but why did the sect master only have the strength of a mid-level martial emperor? Suppressing his confusion, he asked, "Are you the sect master of Profound Heaven Sect?" Qin Xian nodded without changing his expression. "Then why is your strength stuck at the mid-level martial emperor? Logically speaking, your strength should be at least around the high-level martial emperor or the peak martial emperor. It's impossible to be at the mid-level. Could it be that you are fake?" Guo's eyes narrowed slightly. Hearing this, Qin Xian couldn't help but smile. It would be great if he had high-level strength. He raised his eyes and looked at Guo and said, "It's up to you whether you believe it or not. It won't be of any use if I say too much. Besides, I heard what you just said, but don't you think the sentence is a bit shameful?" Guo frowned. Qin Xian pointed his finger at the man in white robe behind Guo and said, "It was obviously these people who attacked us Profound Heaven section. Now we have won again, why should we let them go? Is it possible that the success is because of your words, talk?" Qin Xian couldn't help but sneered. "Don't you understand the principle of cutting the grass without eradicating the roots? No matter what you say, I will never let them go." Qin Xian's words were sonorous and powerful, and his eyes were firm. "Although you are the peak martial emperor, it does not mean that you can act wild and wanton in my section. Of course, if you think that I am weak and not worthy of being your opponent, you can still give it a try." Various traces of Dao appear on it, carved dragons and phoenixes. The material is ancient and vicissitudes of life, exuding an aura of prehistoric times. Just one look at it will make people feel in awe. But it has only reached the stage of initial use, because the spiritual power and law aura required to use it are too much. Even the martial emperor cannot bear it. Seeing this situation, he quickly exclaimed, "Sect master, we will send people to chase them immediately. At least it's almost like reaching the semi-fairyland." I saw an extremely simple and huge bell emerging from Qin Xian's hand. But the rest of the Profound Heaven Sect is unknown to everyone. Qin Xian nodded slightly and did not refuse. He looked at the powerful martial emperors in front of him and said, "Just go and chase them. They can't escape anywhere." Seeing this situation, Guo frowned slightly, and there seemed to be galaxy flowing slowly in his eyes, as if he was thinking about something. After hearing this, several people's eyes lit up and they understood the meaning. "I just hope you can leave here smiling in the end. Otherwise, he really wants to take action with Guo and test how powerful the peak martial emperor is." Qin Xian is also worried about this. Qin Xian didn't look worried at all. He had already prepared everything in advance. The powerful men from the Soul Palace and the Shadow Palace were waiting for them. Where could they escape to? Qin Xian frowned when he saw this scene, then smiled again. The system explained to him before that if you want to use the spell, you have to be a strong martial emperor. Several people were thrown in front of them, and in an instant, a powerful force of space enveloped everyone present and slowly disappeared. I saw a few white beads appearing in the hands of a few people. These were space orbs. The ancient Emperor Bell is rewarded by the system. The power in it is vast, and the momentum it exudes can directly defeat the strong martial emperor. It's actually very powerful, but you have to pay a heavy price to use it. What is this? Why is the breath so terrifying? Guo was puzzled. It's really a good idea to escape. Do you really think you can escape? Take this opportunity to lead everyone to evacuate here immediately. Don't hesitate, otherwise you will have no chance to leave. When the white-robed man behind Guo saw this scene, he turned his eyes slightly and looked thousands of miles away behind him. They were the powerful men brought by the 5 people. After hearing this, several people were shocked, looked at each other, and understood the meaning. That's because he is in Qin Xian's sight, and the other 4 martial emperors are also in everyone's sight. There is no chance to escape, not to mention, they are injured. Qin Xian's current strength cannot bear it, nor can he use the ancient bell's full strength. If he uses it rashly, he may sacrifice his life to it. When he saw this thing, Guo was startled. He felt a threat to his life in this giant bell. Then the sound reached the ears of the leaders. As for why the man in white robe didn't escape? Looking at the ancient bell in his hand, Qin Xian smiled slightly. Fortunately, he had completed the system's tasks because of what the second palace had done. Otherwise, if a peak martial emperor attacked him today, he would be really difficult to deal with. Yes, you must never let these people go. He cupped his hands and the figure disappeared. The void in front of my eyes shook. The words have fallen. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 177. Looking at Guo, Qin Xian's face gradually turned cold. The ancient emperor's bell appeared above his head, his eyes were full of indifference, and his tall figure was like a god who looked down upon the world. The man behind you is really good at looking for opportunities. You and I have nothing to talk about, so Qin Xian's expression condensed. Boom. Immediately, I saw several roars from the ancient imperial bell. Boom boom boom. Start turning slowly. As time goes by, the ancient imperial clock rotates faster and faster, and the sound of the bell becomes louder and louder. Boom. The momentum directly shook thousands of miles and lingered for a long time. When Guo saw this scene, his eyes narrowed, he clenched his fists, his aura spread out, and he jumped directly into the sky. The aura on his body was as terrifying as a cloud. The fighting spirit has never been afraid. Boom. Wow. The breath of Gungun's law is flowing around Guo's body. The laws are spread across the entire world like a galaxy. The stars are shining and shining brightly. The terrifying aura emanating from it makes people feel like they are in the 9 netherworlds of hell. The next moment, a black and white spiritual power emerged from Guo's hands. The spiritual power is billowing and spinning, with thunder and light intertwining in it, and the terrifying aura directly hits the hearts of others. Everyone's eyes trembled when they saw this. After a few breaths, a terrifying power of destruction appeared in Guo's hands, and the power of the laws within it was extremely chaotic, extremely violent, and awe-inspiring. Click, 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 click. The space collapsed instantly, and a terrifying and roaring sound resounded throughout the entire central territory. Boom. The strong men who were practicing or in seclusion were awakened by this momentum, and quickly flew into the sky to watch. What I saw was dark clouds covering the sun, and no trace of sunlight could be seen at all. This is... An old man with an immortal spirit trembled slightly when he saw this situation, his mouth opened with an expression of shock. The powerful power left no resistance in the hearts of everyone present, and aroused a deep sense of powerlessness. A man in green robes located in profound heaven Sect saw this scene, clenched his fists tightly, and looked slightly worried. Immediately, a clear voice came from the man's mind. It's a woman. Strength is indeed the ticket to this world. Immediately, he sighed again, but I have no regrets. I can see the battle between the strong martial emperors as I wished. When the man in green robe heard this, his expression did not change. He looked up into the sky and murmured, I wonder if the sect master can resist it. The man in green robe is Songshishu. These days, after deep consideration, he has decided to join the Profound Heaven section. He has broken into the inner sect with his tough talent and has become a talkative figure among the disciples. Is this the strength of the peak martial emperor? I, an intermediate martial emperor, can actually feel a deep sense of powerlessness. Qin Xian looked at the terrifying momentum and murmured to himself. He immediately shook his head and said with a helpless expression, Oh, it's a pity that this is outside the mountain gate of Profound Heaven section. It would be great if he was within the power of Profound Heaven sect, so that I can use my invincible strength to suppress him. As for exploiting bugs, the system did not give Qin Xian any chance. What if you want to release powerful energy outside in Profound Heaven sect? This is of no use at all. Even if it is released, it will be instantly suppressed by the system to your own strength. You won't be given any chance to exploit bugs at all. It would be great if I could fake a bug, Qin Xian said with twinkling eyes. The words fell. Only the huge energy body in the sky slowly fell down like thousands of meteorites. The sound shook the world, dark clouds rolled, purple thunder struck, the earth roared, and strong winds whipped up. It's like a catastrophe in heaven and earth. Seeing this scene, Qin Xian's heart tightened and he knew he couldn't wait any longer. Boom! The traces of spiritual energy in Qin Xian's palm began to become violent, and the aura of law wandered around his body and began to gather in his body. After reaching a certain level, Qin Xian directly injected this terrifying spiritual power into the ancient imperial bell. The next moment, the bell made a loud sound. Boom! The world calmed down with a sound. Boom! The dark clouds dissipated twice. Boom! 3 times, the originally shattered void began to recover. Boom! 4 blasts, heaven rained down divine thunder. Boom! Click! A chaotic divine thunder of golden light was aimed at the huge energy body from the sky, and attacked fiercely. Boom! When the two confront each other, the sky collapses and the earth shatters, and overwhelming power spreads throughout the entire central territory. Because the pills Qin Xian just swallowed were all top 9th grade. The ancient Emperor Bell flew directly into the sky and began to grow in size. This situation couldn't be more normal. Boom! Even high-level martial emperors have to carefully swallow this kind of elixir, for fear that due to physical reasons, they will not be able to withstand the strong spiritual power of the elixir. Bang bang bang. This is because the energy injected by Qin Xian has exceeded the load of this substance. If it is injected forcefully again, the path of life and death may disappear, and the soul may perish between heaven and earth. The system warning sound also sounded. Boom! Listening to the warning sound in his mind, Qin Xian's eyes suddenly lost focus and he began to feel dizzy. The powerful bell directly shattered the energy body and giant thunder. But Qin Xian still didn't stop. He has encountered the situation of approaching death countless times in his previous life, and it is only once in this life. How can he be afraid? Hoo-hoo! The elixir enters the body and begins to flow into the 8 extraordinary meridians. Seeing this scene, Guo frowned slightly. The Tianqian formation will be unable to withstand it and will soon break. Please prepare the host to evacuate immediately. There is no longer the hot feeling at the beginning, but there is still some uncomfortable feeling. The next moment, he saw several top elixirs appearing in front of him. Seeing this, Qin Xian swallowed them one after another without any hesitation. It was Qin Xian himself who did it. Ding, 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 system warning, system warning. Then he aimed at the ancient Emperor Bell again and injected entering spirit power and law. The spiritual power contained in the 9th grade elixir itself is very powerful. If Qin Xian swallows it in one breath, he will be fine if he does not die. It seems that he doesn't understand that his terrifying move was actually blocked by Dao Dezhong. Qin Xian gasped one after another. He gritted his teeth and endured the dizzy feeling. After a few breaths of time, my body gradually stabilized. Immediately afterwards, a bell rang. Even the profound heaven continent was slowly shaken by this power. Some mortals who did not have the talent of a martial artist thought that a catastrophe was coming when they saw this scene, and they hurriedly shouted in panic. There were bursts of explosions in the meridians, and Qin Xian's face turned slightly red, as if he was about to explode. Chaos spread instantly, and the mortal city began to fall into chaos. But this is indeed the case. He now feels that the heat in his body is getting heavier and heavier, and it seems that it will explode in the next moment. Boom! Ding, 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 system warning, system. Bite the bullet and carry it through with gritted teeth. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 178. Damn it, it seems that I underestimated you. I didn't expect that you would be resisted. It seems that you definitely have a shocking secret hidden in your body. Guo's eyes narrowed. There are thousands of thoughts in my mind. And such treasures are absolutely impossible for a person of your level to possess. Or, someone gave it to you. It seems that there must be a powerful protector behind you, perhaps the legendary strong man from the semi-immortal realm. Having said this, Guo frowned slightly, and his expression fell into deep contemplation. The words fell. I saw the ancient imperial bell vibrating again. Boom! The air wave swept thousands of miles, and everyone watching spit out a mouthful of blood. Guo also suffered a slight injury, but it doesn't matter. What he didn't expect was that the ancient imperial bell could actually send out a slight vibration. When Qin Xian saw this scene, his eyes moved. The ancient imperial bell sent out a slight vibration because Qin Xian used the last bit of power of law to strike it. Unexpectedly, Guo could only be slightly injured. But there is nothing we can do. The peak martial emperor is not that easy to deal with. If it were really that easy to kill, the peak martial emperor would no longer be the peak martial emperor. Qin Xian gasped slightly, his face was as white as paper, and his breath was rising and falling. However, everyone watching the battle did not notice Qin Xian's aura. They only felt that he was showing weakness to the enemy and looking for an opportunity to attack. Unfortunately, it was not what everyone thought. It was because Qin Xian had consumed too much, causing his body to collapse in a short period of time. Speaking of which, Qin Xian hasn't felt this way for a long time. He now has no spiritual power or law power to use, but this is not his limit. As long as Qin Xian wants to, his spiritual power can be endless. Then Qin Xian bought a soul-reviving pill from the system mall and swallowed it without hesitation. The next moment, the soul-reviving pill entered the body, and the medicinal properties were released instantly. Qin Xian's complexion slowly turned rosy, unlike the pale color before. The body has recovered at least about 90%, but the spiritual power and law power are still somewhat depleted. But it wasn't a big problem. Qin Xian immediately raised his eyes and looked at Guo. At this moment, Guo frowned, but his expression was calm, as if he didn't want everyone to guess what he was thinking. Seeing this situation, Qin Xian's expression changed, and he took this opportunity to restore his spiritual power. But the other people hiding in the void did not notice the expressions of Guo and Qin Xian. Their current mood can be said to be extremely exciting, but also a little scared. They were excited because they saw a battle today that they would never see in their lifetime, and they were also witnesses of this battle. They were frightened because of the terrifying strength exuded by Qin Xian and Guo. The sound of the fight was enough to make their hearts swell. The realm of half-immortal, the realm of half-immortal, Guo muttered a few times. Speaking of the semi-immortal realm, Guo looked a little uneasy. There is a trace of sadness hidden in the eyes. Although he has reached the peak of martial emperor, he has never been able to touch the power of the semi-immortal realm. This has nothing to do with talent, but opportunity. What is needed to break through the semi-fairyland is a powerful opportunity. But how could opportunity be so easy to come by? Even if Guo has been thinking about it for tens of thousands of years, he still has no clue and has not seen any opportunity at all. As a result, Guo was silent and worried for a long time, not knowing how to take his future path. He himself is a person obsessed with fighting and the vast world. Without the realm after the breakthrough, how could he see the broader world and higher realm? Until the appearance of a man made Guo have this idea again. That person is the heavenly dragon great emperor who has the appearance of becoming an immortal. After seeing the talent and strength of Tianlong great emperor, Guo seemed to have seen the future path. Then he started to get in touch with Tianlong great emperor. After a long conversation, Guo also learned about the person and character of Tianlong great emperor, and began to plot his own strategies. It was precisely because of Guo's strategy that the two eventually became brothers of life and death. In the end, because of Tianlong great emperor's own talent and extremely powerful understanding, he reached the peak of martial emperor in the following thousands of years and went straight to the semi-immortal realm. At that time, the entire central domain was observing Tianqian great emperor. Emperor's motivation seems to be to watch Tianlong great emperor break through and become an immortal. At that time, when Guo saw that Tianlong great emperor was about to break through to the semi-immortal realm, he finally had a murderous intention in his heart. It happened that Li Ziyun, the Taoist companion of Tianlong great emperor, also had this idea, and Guo had a hint of love for Li Ziyun. Guo did not test her in any way, the two hit it off immediately, and began to unite the strong men of their own forces to prepare to attack Tianlong great emperor. Therefore, the great emperor, the most powerful dragon in the world, fell into the world with hatred and disappeared in the long river of history. When everyone heard the news, they all looked disbelieving, but reality slapped them in the face, and the news released by Li Ziyun and Guo was, Tianlong great emperor encountered disaster when he broke through the semi-immortal realm. Finally fell. The world does not have any doubts about this news. After all, the profound heaven continent did die while breaking through the semi-immortal realm. After the Tianlong great emperor was dealt with, Li Ziyun and Guo began to explore the treasures left by the Tianlong great emperor to see if there was anything that could help them become immortals. The result was indeed discovered, but it was just a simple ring. Seeing this ring, the two thought for a long time, and finally decided not to make the secret public, and then brutally killed those powerful martial emperors who participated. The reason why Tiangong now has such strength and is even related to the upper world is precisely because of this ancient ring. In fact, Xiaoran himself didn't know about this ring, and he never realized that he had been booked by a big shot in the upper world. His luck has always been messed up by people from the upper world, so he can become the pinnacle martial emperor with his ultimate appearance. Xiaoran died because something happened to the person who controlled him in the upper world and did not take care of it. Otherwise, how could Li Ziyun and other martial emperors kill Xiaoran? Having said this, Guo raised his eyes and looked at Qin Xian. Perhaps this person also has items related to the upper world, otherwise how could he reach the martial emperor at such a young age? As soon as these words came out, Guo felt a trace of greed in his heart. Now Guo is not just trying to save the few people who saved Li Ziyun, he has to make plans for himself to become an immortal in the future. Then Guo pointed at the void and waved. Click. A crack opened in the void, and a strange spear flew out of it. On the spear, there are dense and strange lines of black and gold everywhere, which makes people look a little weird and even scary. When everyone in the void saw this scene, their pupils shrank slightly and they exclaimed, this should be the proud personal emperor weapon. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 179. Yes, this is his claim to fame, Emperor Weapon, Blood Soul Gun. It is rumored that Guo brutally killed thousands of living beings in order to refine this gun, causing anger and resentment from heaven and earth. Having said this, the person who spoke shook his head and sighed, seeming to be mourning for the people who were brutally killed by the Blood Soul Gun. After a moment of pause, he said, because of its unique gun Deo body quality, I finally used this gun to fight the peak martial emperor of the same level for tens of thousands of rounds. In the end, the peak martial emperor was killed by him, and the bone because of this, the name of Ao is the best in the world. I didn't expect this terrifying emperor weapon to appear again. It's not like I wasted all the regrets in this life. A middle-aged man said with excitement in his eyes. Finished. High in the sky with rolling dark clouds, Guo looked cold and arrogant, holding the Blood Soul Gun in his slender palm. Feeling the cold yet gentle atmosphere above, a smile finally appeared on Guo's face. I saw a strange bloody aura flowing slowly on the Blood Soul Gun, like a little snake. When people look at it, they will feel frightened. It seems that some demon will emerge from it and devour people cruelly. Looking at the Blood Soul Gun in his hand, Guo's expression showed a hint of longing. That was the scene when he fought against the peak martial emperor. Old friend, let you and I fight each other again today. The words fell. There was a shock all over the spear, and a strange aura swept through everyone around him. Even the man in white robes behind him had a distorted expression, a splitting headache, and his mind began to become confused. But Guo didn't care about him. To him, this person's life had no effect. Guo stared at Qin Xian with a pair of cold eyes and said solemnly, if you die under my Blood Soul Gun, your life will not be in vain. Boom! The spear roared, and the tip of the spear slashed through the shattering void sky. Guo moved his palm and threw out a horizontal slash that destroyed the void. Before it was over, the spear was waved again, and in an instant, several black dragons appeared in the sky. The dragons were hovering in the sky, with a pair of blood-red eyes overlooking everyone. The breath is flowing. This is the pride of dragon race. Immediately, the two offensives went directly towards Qin Xian. The terrifying power swept through Qin Xian's body, causing him to take a step back. Qin Xian frowned and clenched his fists. With his current strength, he couldn't resist these two moves. Moreover, Qin Xian now has no remaining spiritual power and laws to use. Seeing this, Qin Xian thought for a while and began to prepare to use the mission value. I saw two green-faced fangs appearing in front of him, a powerful puppet 2 meters tall. As soon as the puppet appeared, the two terrifying powers were dispersed by the puppet. The aura emanating from itself seems to be able to hit the shattering void sky and shatter mountains and rivers. This is the Emperor rank puppet that Qin Xian replaced from the mall interface by consuming a lot of mission values. However, the strength can only reach around the middle level of Martial Emperor. Of course, Qin Xian did not expect the two puppets to defeat Guo, but wanted to use the puppet's own strong defense to resist the two offensives. So as to prepare for the characters he summons next. Black mist fills the air, and the air is gloomy. The puppet's dark cold eyes moved and looked at the incoming attack with an expression of indifference, without any emotion at all. The fingers moved slightly, making a clicking sound like a demon in hell roaring. Then, the puppet moved its footsteps, and its figure instantly turned into an afterimage and disappeared from the place. The terrifying speed caused its void to crack. When the people hidden in the void saw this scene, their expressions were a little bit shocked, as if they didn't believe that there was an Emperor rank puppet appearing. How is this possible? How could the Emperor rank puppet appear in profound heaven continent? In the void, a young man stood up, his expression slightly surprised. He was wearing a golden mysterious robe, and his smooth and fair face was as beautiful as a woman's. The temperament exuding from the body all expresses nobility and elegance. The young man's name is Yulin. His identity and background is that of the young master of the Yu family in the immortal world. Due to his own personality, he did not practice diligently and learn to manage important matters like other young masters. Instead, he liked to go to the lower world. Play. It seems that I have to investigate this profound heaven sect carefully to see if it also has its own forces in the immortal world, Yulin thought to himself for a moment. Say it. I saw two puppets using their bodies to block two fatal attacks, and they did not fight like the scene everyone imagined. After all, they are not strong enough, and the task Qin Xian gave them is just to block the offensive. Seeing that his power was blocked by two puppets, Guo looked slightly surprised in the sky. I didn't expect you to have two emperor-rank puppets. The emperor is becoming more and more curious about the secret in you. Qin Xian gave him a cold look and said nothing. His mind sank into the system panel. On the panel, there were all kinds of powerful martial emperors everywhere. Looking at his remaining mission value, Qin Xian frowned. He could only change the remaining mission value. A high-level martial emperor appears. But it seems that's enough. Since Qin Xian came to the Central Territory, he stopped consuming mission values and started doing it himself. The purpose is to replace a strong martial emperor to resist when the sect is in crisis. He was also grateful for his previous thoughts. Fortunately, he was not tricked by the system into buying any exercises, etc. Otherwise, today, this profound heaven sect might really be ruined. Without any hesitation, he bought a man wearing black clothes and a cold expression. His name was Mo Chen. The reason for replacing him is because this Mo Chen has a very special physique. Of course, other summoned characters and reward characters have their own unique physiques, otherwise how would they be able to leapfrog? But Mo Chen's physique is different. His physique is that of a blood demon. As the name suggests, as long as he meets a stronger person, and the more seriously injured he is, his own strength will increase and double. The physique is 100 times better than other characters. The next moment, a cold-looking man wearing black clothes and a terrifying aura appeared next to Qin Xian. He looked at Qin Xian in front of him, his expression changed from indifferent to respectful, then he knelt down on one knee, cupped his hands and whispered, "Greetings to the master." Seeing this situation, Qin Xian nodded, helped him up, and said, "The task of Sect's catastrophe this time is left to you. I hope you won't let me down." Hearing these words, Mo Chen's dark eyes showed a glimmer of light, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he nodded and said, "Don't worry. A peak martial emperor is not my opponent yet." Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 180. Seeing Mo Chen's figure appearing out of thin air, Guo paused just as he was about to take action. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he felt a sense of oppression on Mo Chen. Guo has not experienced this kind of oppression for a long time. He has never tasted it even in front of the martial emperor, the pinnacle of the same level. One can imagine how strong this man in black is. Even so strong that he might not be able to defeat himself. Thinking of this, Guo frowned slightly. The breath of the spear in his hand flows slowly like the Yangtze River. It seems that he is ready to rush forward and fight in the next moment. But Guo didn't make any move. He tried his best to control the excitement of the spear, and his expression showed a slight hesitation, as if he was considering whether to fight or not. He hadn't felt the sense of oppression for a long time. As long as something threatened him, Guo would hardly go up and fight with others. After all, this is the behavior of a fool. Usually when faced with this kind of situation, the proud mind remains calm and rational. But Mo Chen didn't wait for him. The movement of his body caused the void to vibrate, and the movement of his feet caused the space to shatter. The aura he exudes is not inferior to that of Gueo, and even vaguely surpasses him. In the void. When everyone saw this scene, they exclaimed again. Who is this person? Why is his aura not inferior to that of Gueo? I don't know. But I just saw this person kneeling down in front of the Master of Profound Heaven section. Maybe this person is the strong man of Profound Heaven sect. Everyone frowned. Don't you think the strength of the sect is a bit beyond expectations? After hearing this, everyone looked at him. The figure walked up to him and listened. With such strength, why has it been hidden for so long? Why not use its own strong strength to occupy a place in the central region? Instead, stay in this desolate place. An old man with a majestic face expressed deep confusion. After everyone heard this, they looked at each other. That's true. Could it be that there is another reason why this Profound Heaven sect doesn't work? Everyone looked at each other and shook their heads. How could they know? Only one old man saw the scene and narrowed his eyes slightly. This person's aura is not inferior to that of bone arrogance. Doesn't that mean that this Profound Heaven sect has the strength to dominate the central realm? The old man murmured. Everyone did not pay attention to the old man's expression, but continued to look at the vague battle between Mo Chen and Gueo. Mo Chen was seen standing opposite Gueo, with a silver spear emerging from his hand. He then looked at Gueo with an indifferent expression and shouted, I won't bully you. Since you use a spear, I will naturally use a spear, so don't hesitate, come and have a fight, let me see how strong you are. Hearing this, Gueo was shocked. He hadn't felt someone speaking to him like this for a long time. There is a hint of anger in his expression. But I still suppressed it. Looking at Mo Chen, he put away his spear, cupped his hand and chuckled, Your Excellency, with your strength, you shouldn't stay in this section, you should stay where you belong. Why don't you follow me back to the heavenly palace and be a high-ranking strongman? Where is he? Why do you need to serve this man here? Gueo did not attack him, but wanted to dig Mo Chen into the heavenly palace. Qin Xian, who was located outside the gate of Profound Heaven sect, heard this and almost laughed like a pig. He didn't expect that Gueo would come to poach him. Mo Chen glanced at him with a look of disdain. The only thing I am loyal to is the Profound Heaven section. Even if there are immortal teachings in your heavenly palace, it will have no effect, so don't waste your efforts digging me there. I only have one thing to ask you. To fight or not to fight? Seeing Mo Chen's unmoved expression, Gueo shook his head, with a trace of pity on his face, and did not answer Mo Chen's words. Mo Chen narrowed his eyes and said nothing. Since Gueo doesn't want to fight, then he will fight hard. Then he held a spear and rushed forward. The terrifying speed shattered the void, and there was a harsh whistling sound. When Gueo saw this scene, he felt helpless. The blood soul gun appeared in his hand, and he could only go up and fight. Boom! As soon as the two collided, the heaven and earth shook, and the mountains and rivers were shattered. The breath spreads thousands of miles away and lingers for a long time. Boom boom boom. 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 The sounds of fighting spread between heaven and earth from time to time, and the figures of the two were wandering in the air like lightning. The sounds of collisions continued. Wherever the two passed by, the mountains were broken, and the mountains and rivers were shattered. There is devastation everywhere. Boom. A mountain peak has been flattened. Boom. A chasm of destruction appears. Another huge pile of rubble was instantly shattered. The momentum resounded throughout the world and could not be subsided for a long time. Everyone watching was shocked by this scene. Their eyes were fixed on this scene, as if they didn't want to miss it. An elder of the Black Demon sect was surprised and said, Is this person really a high-level martial emperor? This shocking and turbulent momentum cannot be produced by a high-level martial emperor. It's not just that. Didn't you see that Gueo has been being pressed and beaten by this person? When everyone heard this, they quickly looked at the two Gao Kong. I found that the two were clearly evenly matched. There is no scene where a proud person is suppressed and beaten. He couldn't help but look at the person who had just spoken with a somewhat angry expression. That expression seemed to say, "Why did you lie to us?" When the person who made the noise saw this scene, he yelled that he was wronged in his heart, and quickly explained, "Please believe me. Although I am not strong enough, I still have vision. Look." The old man pointed his finger at the two fighting in the sky. Although the two seemed to be evenly matched, in fact, only the man in black showed a calm expression throughout the whole process, and with his proud face, his eyes began to show a trace of fatigue, and even his sweat was dripping. Gradually, what does this mean? That is that the strength of this man in black has far exceeded that of Guao. His. Hearing this, everyone took a deep breath. I can testify that what this old man said is true. A man in a yellow robe stood up and said. Everyone looked up and found that he was from Wugu, with a trace of respect on their faces. Of course they have heard of Wugu. It is said that Wugu's ancestor is a strong man in the semi-immortal realm, and this sect is also the only one in the world who has the method to break through the semi-immortal realm. Li Xiun from Tiangong back then also came to Wugu, wanting to find a way to break through to the semi-immortal realm. But in the end, he was kicked out directly and said, "The method is reserved for those who are destined, not for you people." This sentence dispelled all Li Xiun's thoughts.